Good Thursday morning, and thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by Grain Equipment Company, where innovation meets execution. I'm Dusty Sonnenberg. Well, clear skies, and it definitely cooled down last night. 57 degrees on the barn thermometer right now. Not quite as cool as it was yesterday, but we're looking for a high today in the mid-80s. Should be another beautiful day before hopefully we get a more serious chance of rain coming in as we approach the weekend. A couple quick calendar reminders. Coming up tomorrow, Mercer Landmark will be hosting the 3rd Annual Agro Expo at the Laddie Agronomy Facility. That's in Paulding County. To learn more or to attend, visit agroexpo.com. Also, tune in next week. The Axis Seed County Fair Tour takes us to the Wayne County Fair. That for the Junior Fair check presentation. That'll happen on Monday, September the 9th, and you'll hear the radio coverage on the 10th. The Wayne County Fair and Certified Angus Beef invite you to visit the Wayne County Fair September 7th through the 12th. Visit WayneCountyFair.com to learn more. Let's check in now with our weekly update from the Ohio Soybean Council. I'm visiting today with Dr. Laura Lindsay. Laura is our state extension soybean and small grain specialist. Dr. Lindsay, we are getting to the end of August, and as we get to this time of year, a lot of folks start to think towards harvest season. With the hot, dry weather we've had, some of those bean fields, unfortunately, turning rather rapidly, and in some parts of the state that have experienced that harsh drought, harvest looks like it's right around the corner. Other places, though, whether it's double crop soybeans or maybe some that are later planted and caught some of the rains, still look like they've got some potential to them. What can you tell us?
Yeah, the drought was mostly, the early season drought this year was more in the southern portion of the state, whereas, the northwestern portion was actually really wet the beginning of the year. So that might explain some of the differences there. And our research trials where we look at different soybean planting dates, we planted as early as March 25th and as late as June 24th. So in our trials, depending on the planting date, we're seeing, a wide range of maturities as well.
Interesting. How soon do you think the first trials will be ready for harvest?
Well, I would think hopefully the end of September.
Okay.
We'll see.
When it comes to some of the later planted ones that still show potential out there, or for anybody that's maybe got some double crop beans in that obviously they were waiting for rain but did get some rain and the crop's coming along, any late season management tips that you've got for them?
At this time of the year, it's important to use your resources wisely. So if yield potentials could be lower because of drought conditions or prices may be lower, really think wisely before you do things. So if you do choose to apply something, whether it's a fertilizer or fungicide or insecticide, make sure you have a reason to do it. This year in particularly, I know a lot of soybeans are probably beyond the stage where you would spray a foliar fungicide, but disease levels are really low this year in soybeans because of this dry weather. So with potentially lower yield potentials and lower prices, just make wise decisions and don't use any products unless you have a reason to use them.
That makes a lot of sense. Any surprises maybe that have been seen in the plots that you've had out this year?
Well, I'm hoping to see some surprises at harvest. We plant good surprises. We planted as early as March 25th in western Ohio in Clark County, and those soybeans flowered for about 10 weeks, which is a really long time. And I'm really interested to see how these planting dates interact with the weather conditions. So when we plant early, we have earlier flowering, longer flowering. The pods started to form at the bottom of the plants on June 12th, where that drought or those dry conditions in the western part of the state came in a little bit later. So what I'm really interested in is seeing, how could we maybe adjust our planting dates to mitigate the effects of bad weather? Because we can't control the weather, but we can to some extent control our management practices.
That makes a lot of sense. Should be some good practical information coming out of that. Again, my guest today is Dr. Laura Lindsay. She's the OSU Extension Soybean and Small Grain Specialist, also working with the Battle for the Belt Project. Laura, thanks so much again for your time today.
Yep, thank you.
And today's update brought to you by the Ohio Soybean Council and your Soybean Checkoff. Let's take a look now at your Thursday morning weather forecast, brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance, online at seedconsultants.com.
Warm and dry here for your Thursday. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at that Ohio forecast update. Today we are seeing humidity values up a little bit, temperatures up. I think mid-upper 80s is what we're going to be seeing over a large part of the state. So, yeah, it's downright warm here, but we're not going to stay warm for an exceptionally long period of time. We have a frontal boundary that wants to come through as we finish the week tomorrow into Saturday. That front is likely going to be our one threat of rain over the next 10 days to 2 weeks. So let's talk about it a little bit. We get through the day today with no moisture. Overnight tonight, clouds start to build in northwest Ohio. I think rains kick off tomorrow morning to midday in northwest Ohio and then spread across the rest of the state through the afternoon, through the overnight. And then we have lingering moisture Saturday, particularly in the eastern half to eastern third of the state. All in, all done, I think you have to pencil anywhere from a quarter to 1.5 inches of rain. The high end of the totals are going to be in northeast Ohio where the rain lingers longer. A large majority of the state, I think, is going to be more like half an inch or less. So we're looking at good moisture here out of that. But by the time we get to Saturday morning in the west, we're done. Sunday morning in the east, we're done. And then we are dry all the way through next week. Monday through at least a Saturday, not even a hint of rain. Large upper-level ridge is in control over the nation's midsection by the end of next week, and that tells me it's going to be a minute till we get moisture in here, even most of the way through that third week of September. We could be dry. That's the way your forecast is stacking up. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more after this.
Get ready for the 62nd Annual Farm Science Review, September 17th, 18th, and 19th. It's more than a farm show. Explore over 600 exhibitors across 2.6 million square feet, providing equipment, services, and education for farms of all types and sizes. Tickets can be purchased at participating OSU Extension offices and agribusinesses, as well as online. Visit fsr.osu.edu to buy your Farm Science Review tickets now and plan your show visit. We look forward to seeing you at the 62nd Farm Science Review, September 17th, 18th, and 19th. Time is running out to earn more for your acres. The Soil and Water Outcomes Fund pays farmers to begin or expand on-farm conservation, like reduced tillage and cover crops. Last year, they paid farmers an average of $33 per acre. They offer one-year contracts, and 50% is paid prior to verification. Get paid to reduce erosion, improve your soil health, and more. Hurry to their website to request a payment estimate, theoutcomesfund.com. That's theoutcomesfund.com.
We are at the 2024 Harvest Classic Golf Outing, and joining me is Brandon Kern with the Ohio Soybean Association. Brandon, a beautiful day for golf, but we want to talk about things maybe beyond the golf course. We want to talk about some policy things going on. One of the big things we've been tracking with you has been the EPA and some policies with the Endangered Species Act. Where do we stand with that currently?
Yeah, well, first of all, it is a beautiful day out here. It's going to be nice to maybe forget about the policy for just a day before we dive back into it. But no, yeah, a lot of important developments with that Endangered Species Act and the approach that the U.S. EPA is taking towards new regulatory measures on pesticides in general. And, you know, first and foremost, we've been working the first item that they rolled out with that Endangered Species Act in mind was what they're calling their herbicide strategy, and that is the approach in which they are going to require certain mitigation measures to be put in place to minimize potential impact of herbicide applications on endangered species that are, you know, proximate area to where farming operations are going on. We've been working on this for over a year now, and have been in close dialogue with EPA, trying to give constructive feedback, trying to make this a more workable proposal. The final strategy has been released, and I think we've made a lot of headway in making this more workable. I think there's some remaining concerns just in general. One of the arguments we've made from the beginning is that the need for mitigation strategies at all are based on overly conservative estimates of the negative impact that herbicides have on endangered species. And so that still remains a problem for us and something we're going to have to work through and figure out from a strategy standpoint. But in terms of those mitigation measures that farmers are going to have to put in place, the array of options has been increased, and the number of mitigation points, I think, for a lot of farmers comparatively to the original proposal is going to be significantly less. We talked about, we made headways where they've carved up the different parts of the country into high risk, low risk type areas. Most of Ohio is a medium or low risk categorization, which means the mitigation measures are going to be fewer here for those farmers. But we still have some remaining concerns about the overall strategy, but I think we've made a lot of progress. I think just one example, when EPA originally rolled this proposal out, they didn't give any credit to if you were using adjuvants in your herbicide application. They have now added that as a mitigation measure. So you can use an adjuvant. We all know that decreases the chances of the pesticide getting off of the field, stays on the plant. It seems like a pretty common sense thing. They have adopted that based on feedback that the agriculture groups have been able to provide. So, some positive, while we still have some remaining concerns, we've made positive improvements in that proposal.
Good to hear there's some listening going on. So that's the herbicide strategy. You said earlier the insecticide strategy also released. That looks similar, or what do we know about that?
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very similar approach. They almost look identical to each other. Same type of approach, mitigation measures, same kind of high risk, low risk categorization of different regions around the country. And so I think it's going to be a very, very similar, if it's not a mirror of identical to the herbicide strategy, very, very close from what we've been able to tell so far. That was just released within the last week and a half or so, so we're still combing through the fine details, but as we've looked at it, our original analysis of it is that it's very similar approach.
All right. Again, my guest today is Brandon Kern. We are at the 2024 Harvest Classic talking a little bit of ag policy and legislation. Brandon, thanks for your time.
Anytime.
Stay tuned. We'll be back to take a look at your markets after this. Hey, Ohio, exciting news coming to you from Ohio's Country Journal. Subscribe or renew your free subscription by September 20th of 2024, and you could win one of 4 50-inch televisions. Ohio's Country Journal is free, but subscribers have to renew their subscriptions every 3 years to continue to receive it. Subscribe or renew to stay updated on all things Ohio, from agricultural insights to rural lifestyle. Don't miss out. Visit our website today at ocj.com/renew. It's time now for your Thursday morning Louis Dreyfus grain analysis, brought to you by the Ohio Soybean Council and your soybean checkoff. Let's check in with Ryan Martin.
Grain markets finished off on a mostly higher note on Wednesday. Second half of the week, it could be interesting here as we take a look at market information. What got the markets excited yesterday? Well, global ag markets were firming because the December corn contract was attracting buying and some short covering interest as we moved above the 50-day moving average and a few others. Census U.S. corn exports in July totaled 207 million bushels, up 115 million, or more than double that of 2023. Work is suggesting that the U.S. corn exports in August will be slightly above 200 million bushels, which puts the final U.S. corn exports for the season at about 2.285 to 2.29 billion bushels, which is above USDA's projected number. You probably have to see that adjusted in a new supply and demand report. After a little bit of a delay, we did get another flash reported sale, 131,000 tons of soybeans to China for 24-25 delivery. Attention is being paid to rising hog prices and crush margins in China. Right now, it's doubtful that U.S. soybean exports can exceed 1.8 billion bushels without South American weather issues or lengthy seeding delays in Brazil. Right now, we're not seeing that at all. Speaking of Brazil, soy producers will soon be allowed to plant soybeans as regional moratoriums are lifted as of September 7th in Mato Grosso and September 20th in Paraná. Mother Nature unlikely to cooperate with early seeding in Brazil. It's far too early to have concern over what's going on in Brazil on the weather side, but it did create a few talking points yesterday, which goes back to the fact that beans were up double digits. On the wheat side of things, couldn't find many headlines yesterday to get us super excited, but the fact that corn has been up really kind of lifted the wheat market as well. Canola futures yesterday were down sharply on that tit-for-tat trade situation with China. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Let's take a look now at how the markets closed, brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. December corn closed up 3.5 cents a bushel at $4.13 3/4, and March corn was up 3 3/4 at $4.31. November soybeans closed up 9 1/4 cents at $10.22 1/2 cents, and January soybeans were up 9 3/4 at $10.39 1/4. December Chicago wheat was up 14 cents at the close at $5.81 3/4. Taking a look at your overnight markets, September corn is unchanged at $3.90 1/2. September soybeans unchanged at $10.06, and wheat for September down 6 1/4 at $5.59. Thanks for joining us. This is the Ohio AgNet.